Hello, fourth graders. Miss Lockhart here. I am very excited to finish our crystal drawing this week. You will need two colors, two colored pencils, and a sharpener. Mine has a happy face and an eraser. We're going to practice shading techniques. And so there are a few different types of shading techniques. As you learned from our previous lessons, we have smooth shading, cross-hatching, hatching, and the list goes on. But those three, shading, cross-hatching, and hatching, are the three we can experiment with today. So you get to choose what kind of shading technique you would like to use, and I'm going to show you all three types on my crystals here. But you can just choose one, the one you like the most. And if you're having a hard time remembering what the difference is, you can look back to week 1 and you'll see we did a project all about hatching and cross-hatching and shading. I'll also show you right now. So before we start, we need to figure out where our light is. Now you can see I've already started a shadow on the right-hand side, which means the light's up here. Now I always like to just put a dot to remind me. Let's pretend that's a lamp or the sun, okay? So that'll be the brightest, and this is the darkest. So imagine light is hitting. We know right away that this over here is gonna be nice and dark, and so is the shadow. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with smooth shading, and I'm gonna make this a dark value. So I'm making it smooth by just using a flat side of my color pencil, not the tippy point, because the point is gonna leave lots of little lines. But if you have a flat side, it'll make a nice smooth shading or value. It'll be smooth if you have a flat side. So there's my dark for my smooth type of shading technique. Now I'm going to go over it again to make it even darker. You see, I have to go over the dark side, and you will too, a few times I'm sure. You want to make sure it's nice and even. So if you have areas like that that are like a little bit light, you want to go over them again. Cool. So if that's dark side, we need to bring it up to the point because that side is also going to be dark because it's on the opposite end of where the light will hit. You have to imagine, use your imaginations and imagine this is 3D, a 3D crystal. If it were 3D, the light would only hit it in a few different places. So I'm doing the dark, smooth shading technique. Now I'm going to go to my middle value, a lighter value. So it'll be less pressure, right? And look, I'm going to need to sharpen. You all will need to sharpen often when you do shading with color pencils because you use them pretty quickly. So this is actually part of the lesson. Don't forget to sharpen. And if you sharpen it too pointy, it'll break. So don't make it too pointy and try to see where your flat side is because you want to use that flat side to do your smooth shading. Okay, so now I'm going to do the middle value. Now this crystal has 3 sides. If yours only has 2, then that's awesome. You only have to do 2 different values, a dark and then the medium. But I'm going to do 3 because I have 3 sides. So I'm going to start a little, oops, I'm coloring over the lines. That's okay. I'm going to start light and then I can make it darker. I'm going to make it a little bit darker because it's kind of jumps to be dark and then way too light, so we want it to jump a little less. Dark, medium, then light. Okay. I'm going to bring it up to the point. Remember, if you accidentally make it too dark, you can always erase. And if one spot is a little darker than the other spots, what you can do is you can add a little bit more to the other spots that aren't as dark. And remember, we're doing smooth. I'm going to do hatching and cross-hatching next. It's going to be so fun. Okay, you can see it goes dark, medium, and then light. Light's very light. Pretty, pretty. Now you'll start to see that they're not the same shade. It gets light to dark, but these two are kind of similar, aren't they? So the left is light, the middle is medium, and that is dark. But I think I need it to have more of a transition. So I want it to be more different. I want you to see the difference between the light and the medium. So in order to do that, I have options. I could erase the light some, or I could make the medium just just a little bit darker, which means the dark side would also need to get a little bit darker so that the dark is darker than the medium. So this is just adjusting. We're taking a look and we're seeing, oh, well, is there a gradient, dark to light, or are they the same value? Are they the same shade? So now I need to go over here and make this a little darker. I'm going to use more pressure. Pressing down. You can start to really see the difference now, can't you? Dark, medium, light. I just need to finish up this. It's a good thing we have erasers because I'll want to erase those little marks that came outside of the line in just a minute. Wow, I can really see the difference now between my 3 different values. Can you? Can you see it? Light, medium, dark? That's what you want to see on yours. And again, if you just have 2 sides, you just have to do 2 different values, light and dark or medium and dark. Okay. Now I'm going to move over and I'm going to erase later because I don't want to waste too much of our time. So let's just do hatching and then we'll do cross hatching last. So remember, hatching is this, when you have a line that repeats, but it's the same direction. Do you see how it's a diagonal? You could even do your line not diagonal. It could be horizontal, it could be vertical. It's up to you. Now, since this is my darkest shade, since it's on the other side of where the light would hit, I have to really go over with quite a few lines to make it look nice and dark because we don't want too much of that white paper to show. The white paper is really how it looks like a lighter value. And I'm also gonna have to be careful because look, right next to it is that light value. So I have to go a little slow so I don't overlap and go into this side of the other crystal. And I am using the same color in all of my crystals because they're the same kind of crystal. So they would be the same color, but if you want to get real creative, you could switch your colors. You could have them different, that's fine. I am going to do these small ones down here a different color. That's what this turquoise is for. Okay, so I'm just making sure that I have a nice dark value over here. So you can see I'm continuing that line in the same direction. And I'm overlapping and I'm repeating it as many times as I want to make sure it looks darker. And remember, we're not doing smooth, so you want to see the texture of those lines. So don't fill it all the way in. You can start to press down a little harder now if you want it to be a little bit darker. Can you see it's getting to be a darker shade? Yay! Now, I'm going to go ahead and come over here to do the light hatching. Now look here, you can have your lines separated with more space between. That gives the effect of it looking lighter. See there? You can add a few more too, and you can have a lighter pressure when you do these lines so they're not as dark. You see how I'm using less pressure and it looks lighter? And I have a little bit more space between my lines too, which also makes it look lighter because the white of the paper shows through. Okay, I'm happy. I can see dark, medium. Perfect. Now I have to do it up here. So this kind of shading, hatching, smooth and cross hatching, it does take patience because you have to repeat steps and you have to go over the lines. And then you have to look back and see, well, can I see the difference between the 2 shades? Because if you can't see the difference, if both sides look dark and you can't see that there's a difference, try to fix it. You can either erase the light side or you can add more to the dark side. And you see how the edges over here are light, so I'm gonna just make a small hatch line over there. Yay, there's my dark side. Now I need to do the left part of the crystal with lighter hatching. So I'm using less pressure and I'm leaving a little bit more white space between, you see? I can see the difference. Light, dark, light, medium, dark. Great. Now, cross hatching. Okay, cross hatching is so much fun. So you can go any which way you want. If you want, you can start by putting an X. Sometimes that helps keep the lines going the right way. So I'm going to start by doing the hatching that way and go up all the way. And then I remember my lines that way, so I'm going to position my hand so that I can reach it. And I'm going to make my cross hatching. So there is there is it's like a cross and two lines intersecting. They're going the opposite directions, just like a cross or an X. Can you see this is darker? Let's make it a little bit darker. I want to press down a little bit harder. And I have to go kind of slow when I get to this edge, because remember, I don't want this side to get too dark. If I accidentally color outside of the lines, it could get a little dark, too dark. I just love cross-hatching. It's so fun. And it looks really cool. So you get to choose one, but if you really feel like just doing all three too, I'm not gonna stop you. You can do all three types of shading if you really like the look of it, or you can just do one. You can choose smooth, hatching, or cross hatching. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my X over here to remember which way my lines are gonna go, and I'm gonna start off light and then go over here, go the other way. You can see you can really work on this for a while. You can, if you wanted, you can get really into it and you can erase the lines that are a little bit darker. I'm going a little bit fast because I want to make sure that this video is about, just about 15 minutes of instructions. So you can work on yours longer though if you see there are some things you want to change. Okay, now I have to do the top, don't I? You can see it's starting to look a little 3D. Especially over here in this one because it has three sides. So let's do cross hatching. I'm going to go one way and then the other way. Time to sharpen that pencil again. Remember, don't want it too sharp. Now this is definitely not dark enough, right? Because it doesn't match that value, that dark shade. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over it some more to make it darker. I'm gonna go the other direction. The trick is to make the darkest side quite dark, because then the other side will be really easy to make it lighter because you will already have such a dark side. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to do the lighter side over here. Make sure you cross. To do cross hatching if that's what you've chosen. But if you just love smooth, go ahead and do smooth on your crystals or any type that you like. Well, I am pretty happy with how that looks. I'm going to take a moment to kind of make my drawing look a little tidy and cleaner. And like I said before, you can use more than two colors if you want. Like, I'm going to use this one for down here, but you could use a third color for your shadow. It's up to you. Make it cool and creative. Choose your own colors. You see, I erased that because there was a dark line right there. And let me be very careful to make sure that I do a light shade to fix where I erased. That looks better. Okay. So far, so good. And I see some little lines in here that I brought over into this section I didn't want to color, that red color. Okay, that's pretty good. Sometimes it's hard to erase color pencils. Got to go over it a few different times. Oh, I see a little bit. See right there? Try to erase that too. Okay. Great. All right, now for down here. These are all going to be a little bit different because we all have different geometric kind of triangular shapes down here. So just remember your light source and where do you think the light touches and where do you think it doesn't touch. So I definitely think that's going to be the light side and it's going to be similar to your crystal. So if this is near the light side here, then that's light. If this is near the dark side, that's dark. All right, have fun finishing your crystal drawing. Be sure to use some different colors for your bottom crystal and your shadow. And I hope you've had fun learning about different shading techniques. I cannot wait to see what you've made. And I will talk to you next week. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye, everyone.